Blog Talk Radio, the world's largest online radio network.
I'm Marcus Edwards, and today we are pleased to have as our guest a member of AshfordRadio.com who lives an interesting life as an educator. It's my pleasure to welcome to the show Ann Babinski. Ann, thank you so much for joining me today.
And thank you for having me.
Now, you've spent many years as an educator helping all the youth in your area to become better in their academics. You've been a college teacher as well at the Yavapai College in Arizona. Am I right?
That's right.
And right. Now that that time has passed on and you're retired, you're still doing a lot of good work to help parents understand the importance of early education pertaining to child development in the early ages of a child's life from 1 to 5. For many folks, we probably don't perhaps put as much emphasis on those early years as they need be, but you understand the research that's been done to prove otherwise. So let's begin by talking a little bit about early child development and those first 5 years. Talk to us a little bit about why it is so important we begin to help our child develop at that stage in life.
Okay. There just are a few facts that I would like to point out, and one is certainly one that always has hit me, and that is that a child's brain is 90% developed by the time they are 5 years old. So that means before they go to kindergarten and before they enter the public school system, 90% of their brain is already developed. 80% is developed by the time they're 3 years old. And I think that gives us a pretty clear picture of what's going on in that little child's mind as they develop. And so we realize that the foundation for the rest of their life really is laid from birth to 5, because lots of the brain's work is carried on at that time, and the brain is able to become, and I'm not talking about facts and knowledge and that sort of thing. I'm talking about facility and ease of using the brain to think and to problem solve and to figure things out. Those things are more important because facts we can always look up. We can always find those, and especially in today's world that is so full of facts and knowledge that we can access very quickly through technology. But I think that, knowing that you need to know is probably more important than actually knowing some of the facts.
Yes.
So when I talk about academics, I think they are the product of these first 5 years, because academics are something that we can go and get at any age. I've had a graduate who was 80 years old from a 2-year college, who hadn't had the opportunity to go further on to school before and wanted to, and so she did. And she graduated when she was 80. So, those things can happen at any time, but if these first 5 years are not used in a productive way for these young children, they're not going to be able to go after something like that.
That's so true.
That's really why I have such a passion for these things.
So as far as parents are concerned, initially when they have that child in that first 5 years, what are some of the, arenas in education that they should be working with when it comes to their child? Is it auditorial things? Is it math? Is it memory skills? Is it phonics? What areas specifically should they really be?
Important. Yeah.
Yeah, most important.
They really need to talk to their child. I love it when I go to the grocery store and I see a parent with the child in the cart, telling them about everything on the aisle that they see and talking about which one do they want. The vocabulary, the language development, reading to a child every single day is extremely important, because it's making those pathways for language in their brain that, we kind of thought, I think, before this research was done 30, 40, and I taught 40 years ago, so I know what it felt like to not have this research and then to have the research. And we were going on hunches, you know. We could see that the child reacted well to these things, and so we somehow knew they were important. But now we have research that tells us how important this is.
Absolutely. Now, I can recall as a young person in those early few years of my life experiencing television programs such as Sesame Street being one of the main ones. And now, as an adult, they go back and say how important those early years of having a child count 1, 2, 3 and the alphabets and all those different things they learned through Sesame Street in particular really did make an impact. And I didn't think of it at the time, but perhaps now that I look back, it did really encourage me to want to learn more.
Exactly. It gave you that. And it's not the 1, 2, 3 and the ABC so much as it is the fact that you thought it was fun to learn those things and to say them again and again and again. Little things like rhyming really do help kind of grease the pathway in the brain for that language facility later on. And it's just so important. And you're right when you say that parents need to know these things. A lot of times some families have passed these things on, and they've always done them for generations. And probably that won't make much of a change for them. But there are many families that have not passed these habits on. They didn't read to their children. Mm-hmm. They didn't talk to their children, you know. And so we really want to get the word out that this is not just, we're not just doing it because it's play and it's fun, although that's a good thing.
Yes.
We are doing it because it's strategically important to that child.
Very beneficial. Now let's speak about how it's being implemented, not just inside the home, but let's say perhaps from a child care perspective. How many?
Okay,
how
good.
much?
I was hoping you'd bring that up. One of the things that I think we have realized in the last 20 years is that child care has changed a great deal in the last 20 years.
Oh, yes.
We used to think of child care as something that the parent needed. And in many cases, that still is true. The parent needs it because they have to go to work and to earn enough money to have the kind of life they want to provide. Okay, that's good, and that's not a bad thing. But really, what we know today is the child needs it. It's better for that child to be in a social environment with age mates of his own than it is for him to be home alone with no other children and with somebody who's not paying attention to him and not providing the activities that are age appropriate for that child. So, you know, to think about, this is a message I would like to give to every parent in the whole world, not impossible, but not probable, that child care isn't really for you, it's really for that child. And if you can find, and I know people can find, if you can find a quality program that's going to do and give to the child the things they need at the age they are, that program will be good for that child. It won't be just containing them. It won't be just keeping them safe. Not that those things aren't important, but it will be good for that child's development. They will grow into a better, fuller adult if they have had that foundation. And I hear people say, oh, my gosh, it's so bad. When you take your child to kindergarten, 90% of the kids have been in child care. And I really, really want to call it child care, not daycare. We're not taking care of the day. We're taking care of the child.
That's so well said, so well said. Now, let's put this in perspective, though. Are we suggesting that there should be in child care some sort of curriculum, or is it really just in the activities that they participate in?
It's really in the activities they participate in. Of course, a curriculum is a guide for the teacher. Mm-hmm, That's really what a curriculum is. But any teacher worth their salt is not going to stick just to the curriculum. They're going to go by what the kids like, what the kids are interested in, and what they seem to want, because children know best what they need. And that's another whole thing that we could get into. They know what they need. You know, when we see a child being inquisitive about a bug or a leaf or a worm, they need to know that, and they're
Right.
finding it out. That's what they're doing.
Now, I'm curious to know your thoughts on if we begin to take in consideration early child care, as we just stated,
Uh-huh.
and the men and women who are caregivers of those children. Perhaps then what we're suggesting is that they need a different type and style of training so that they can
Yes.
better. Is that the case as well?
That is the case, and that's why I began the program at Yavapai. There was no program. There was no such program. And I've had students come back to me who've gotten their associates, their 2-year degree, and they've gone on to 4-year, and they said, you know what? They taught me the same things all over again that you taught me. So we squeeze a lot into that
Yes.
program, and
Right.
there's a lot of hands-on in that program, and that's why we built a lab school, that's another whole facet of the program that I can talk about, but maybe not now.
Well, I actually would like to talk about a few of those things. I want to really dive into first things first, the entire movement in the program and what you're offering there. But first, we'll take a quick commercial break, and then we'll come right back and speak about that.
Okay.
I'm Marcus Edwards. My guest today is Ann Babinski. You're listening to Ashford Radio. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
Can you see your goals but feel like you can't quite get there? Are you thinking about a career change or a work-life balance adjustment? Are you in management and want to be more effective? If you answered yes to any of these questions, it's time to consider working with Key to Renew coach Heather Ludwig. You're sure to be in good hands on your path to success as you partner together to fine-tune and rebuild a whole life approach to achieving your goals. Go to keytorenew.com and take the first step in maximizing your full potential.
A work story. Once upon a time, in a far distant land called Los Angeles, there was an employer. The employer was searching and searching for the right person to come work for her.
I've been searching and searching for the right person to come work for me.
Meanwhile, just 5 miles down the road was an employee searching for the perfect job.
Oh, job, wherefore art thou my perfect job?
Unfortunately, Mrs. Employer and Miss Employee never heard of JobsAnnex.com, so they were never able to meet.
Wait, what's JobsAnnex.com?
JobsAnnex.com. You know, the website that matches employers and employees together with no burdens or unexpected issues.
Even with my flawed resume?
JobsAnnex.com has evaluated thousands of resumes and has the resources to help you construct an award-winning resume, an eye-catching cover letter, and more.
Hey, employer, let's go check out JobsAnnex.com now so we can meet each other.
Right behind you, employee.
Check out www.jobsannex.com today.
Thanks, Mr. Storyteller Man.
Do you have a phenomenal healthcare facility, but your nurses are not quite up to par? Or maybe your nurses are well educated but working in a poor healthcare system. It's time you consulted a leader in nursing education and healthcare. Carol Patton helps hospitals and healthcare organizations create a culture of patient safety and quality. What's more, Carol helps create new nursing programs and can also work with you to improve existing nursing programs. Visit www.carolpatton.com or call 724-627-6600 today.
And we are back. This is Ashford Radio. I'm Marcus Edwards, and my guest today is Ann Babinski. Now, Ann, before the break, we were speaking about the importance of the early child, the development of a child in its early years, that 1 through 5, and also how this is going to impact the child care profession. All those folks, men and women who are in that profession, really need to have a better understanding of what it is that they're going to be doing with those children in those, 4, 5, 6, however long the morning hours are when they have that child in their care, to help them to begin to develop in a way in which they are working on, as you said, their oratorial skills, their motor skills, phonics, all those things that are going to carry them through their academic life and throughout their entire life for that matter. You have a wonderful program going on right now called the First Things First movement. Talk to us about some of the instructions that you're giving these professionals.
Okay. First Things First is actually a movement in the state of Arizona. I don't know whether people know this, and I certainly don't necessarily want to advertise it, but Arizona has been ranked like 46th and 48th in their raising of young children in the kinds of educational opportunities that there are for young children.
Mm-hmm.
And so in 2006, the voters passed an initiative that uses tobacco tax money, all for children 0 to 5. And the group of people who are kind of engineering where that tax money is spent is First Things First. And First Things First is made up of 31 regional partnership councils all over the state. And they are set up by population, both of population per se, but also by population of children 0 to 5. So that we have the most, of course, where the most children are, and the least where there are fewer children. But all of the areas of Arizona get an allocation every year from this tobacco tax money. And I have to say I'm a lot more careful about how I speak to smokers these days, because we benefit from them. Of course, what we really want them to do is buy the cigarettes and throw them away,
right,
because that way they pay the tax and we get the money. But, probably people are not going to do that.
Unfortunately, no. But unfortunately, no, they're probably not, which is bad for their own health. But all jokes aside, that is a great use of the money. Folks are going to obviously buy tobacco. That tax money is going to a wonderful cause. Whoever thought this idea up should be commended.
Yeah, well, it was. I know the person. Her name is Nadine Basha, and she had a lot of background, and she just finally got mad one day and said, I'm going to do something about it. And she actually, it is statute. In other words, it's state law that we have this. And that's a beautiful thing.
Is Arizona's doing a great job. I do know in our own state of New York, our lotto system was supposedly set up that way as well, where the lotto money, taxes, and part of it was supposed to go to education. It does not funnel directly to the school systems as it's supposed to. But it's good to see a program such as this in Arizona working well.
Yeah. Well, and I must tell you that I came from New York to Arizona. Those are the ideas and ideals that I brought with me to Arizona to start this program at Yavapai.
Wonderful. So going on along those lines, now the program's implemented, it's making a huge impact to improving the overall numbers. You had said you were 46, was it, ranked?
Yeah, we were ranked somewhere down there. Yeah.
And currently?
Right now we're still, I don't think that we've come up in our rank that much. Maybe 45th, I don't know. But we're not, this has only been in operation. Well, it only got passed in 2006. It was 2008 before we got all the councils set up and the money started to roll out. And so we have only been working on it about 4 years. Mm-hmm. So our first children that we've worked with are in kindergarten now, or maybe first grade now, depending. I see. So we haven't seen that much, and we're working very hard to make sure that we do what we say moves the needle. In other words, we don't want just to spin our wheels and spend our money on things that don't make that much difference. We really want to make sure that we're doing a lot of things that really do make a difference.
Absolutely.
And parents and parenting are certainly one of the most important things that we look at.
Let's speak a little bit about that if we could. What has been the response that you've gotten from the parents? Obviously, you have not been able to really gauge or chart out the results for the children yet, though they're still just entering into their academic careers in kindergarten and such. But for the parents, right, what has been the response from the parents? The
parents have been delighted to learn these things and to feel, and we have lots of true, life stories that are really the parents speaking about them and their children and saying, how much this has helped them, how much they realize that knowing how their child grows and understanding it from the beginning. And, of course, we've caught parents at different stages along the way. The ones who have little babies, they're the lucky ones because they're going to be able to treat that baby all the way through. Some of them were 4.5 when we began this, so they were kind of like, oh my gosh, it's too late already, but it's really not. I mean, it's really not, and it's never too late. But most of the parents and families that we have helped are like amazed at how big a difference it makes. There are home visiting programs. We really do not. We work hard not to just work with low income or poverty or at-risk children. We really support the health and education of all young children. And of course, what we try to do is give the children the tools, but in so doing, we're giving parents tools. And sometimes parents are learning things that they did not learn when they were children, and so then they learn to carry that on, and it's quite amazing to watch it. It really
what
is.
a wonderful impact you're having on the entire community as a whole, parents and the children alike, as well as the educators, those folks who are in your arena, being to improve their skill set as well.
Exactly. So those are some of the things that we do, and it just really is amazing to watch the growth. And right now, I think we're measuring it in each individual family, and that's a good thing. But it doesn't give us the huge numbers that we would like to produce as time goes on.
Right, but obviously this is a long journey that'll have to be fought, and the outcome, in my opinion, will be successful. I'm sure of it. Let's talk a little bit about how we might be able to implement this on a national level. Obviously, what you're speaking about really could be impactful to all communities and all cities and states, for that matter. Is there any thought in broadening this opportunity to other states?
I don't know of any, but I know that there are other states doing similar things. I know that North Carolina has something called Smart Start, and we patterned what we did kind of after them. And theirs is better than ours. First of all, it's been in operation longer, but I don't know where they were ranked, but that's a state that used to be ranked very low also, and now they're just coming up. But theirs is not only state statute, but the legislature in that state has provided a funding stream for it that will go on and on and on. In other words, ours is, we have to find other ways to fund it because the tobacco tax is going to go down and it's going to go away. And we want that for people's health, but we need to find a funding stream so that this can keep on going.
Of course.
And North Carolina has already done that. Their legislature, I will say that our politicians in Arizona are still not. They're constantly trying to take away our money. So they're still not. They're not realizing. We do meet with them, we do talk to them, and maybe we're having an impact. I don't know, but so far the politics in Arizona don't show any signs
of
support.
Changing. Yeah, and that's unfortunate, but hopefully programs such as this and you getting the word out there will encourage folks who are listening in, who are actually in your region, who are in Arizona. Obviously, when the time to get out there to that voting block and make your choice, you'll take this into consideration because a program such as this is very important, obviously to your individual child, but as to the whole community as a whole.
Absolutely. We think it will make Arizona a better state if we can implement this and keep it going,
I agree.
Yeah.
Let's speak quickly with the few moments we have left about how people can help out or assist in this. Obviously, we need good teachers, and not just teachers in the higher up grades as far as kindergarten on, but you need good child care providers. And
we do.
I guess you might actually say that soon, in some regard, you might actually infer to them as teachers as well.
I hope so.
Right?
Yes, so I would like that.
That would be wonderful as we speak. So let's talk a little bit about folks out there who are thinking about getting into the education profession, whether it be as a child care provider or as a teacher itself. What does it take to be a good educator?
Well, I think there's an amount of talent, just like we think about the arts, as being talents. I think there's a talent to teaching too. I think that you learn, and I know I did, I knew early in life that I loved being able to watch somebody change and grow because they had learned something. I just loved being a part of that. And it didn't really quite matter what it was that they learned, but I was very, very interested in that whole process. And so I knew early on that I wanted to become a teacher.
Right.
But I think that there is a talent, but I also think we need educated teachers. And I don't mean to sound snobbish when I say this, because I don't mean it in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But we need people who care, but we also need people who know and who are educated and understand how children develop. And even in the higher grades, they need to understand that, in my opinion. But in these first 5 years, it's really, really important for them to understand and for them to be able to see if something's not developing, to catch that early.
Right.
And help it to develop. So but obviously a person that's not interested in all this stuff is not going to go into this field. And
no.
So I always told my college students, and I did some college in New York and also here, I always said, when you work in early childhood, you never have a bad day, because you only work with people who love what they're doing. Most people, if they don't love working with young children, they're not going to stay in the field.
No, that's a good point.
They're just not going to. And so that's, at once, that can be a detriment, but I think it can be a good thing too, because it makes for a wonderful environment, a wonderful work environment. And so I guess I wish that if people have this interest, they would really consider doing it. You will not. I can promise you will not become rich. You will not make more money than your next door neighbor or anything like that. But your richness will be in the life you live and in the way you help others.
Well
that
said.
will be your riches.
Well said, well said. For our listeners who are listening in right now, obviously, and want to make an impact, they want to perhaps model their program after the one that's already in place right now with First Things First, or they want to assist and help, or just get more information so they can spread the word. What steps should they take? They can probably Google First Things First, I assume?
Yes, I think they can. And First Things First is on Facebook. It's always AZ First Things First.
Okay.
And it's also on Twitter, and there is a very full website at www.azftf.gov.
Wonderful. So we want to encourage folks out there to take that information with them and to get more information. And I really would love to see this on a national level. So whoever is listening in, wherever respective state you're in the position you hold, if you can get the ball rolling into getting a program such as this implemented in your school districts and throughout your state, it'd be a great benefit to those young people. Great benefit.
Yeah.
All right. Ann, thank you so much for coming on the program today and joining us. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. To our listeners, I'd like to let you know you've been listening to Ashford Radio with my special guest, Ann Babinski. Ashford Radio can be found online at ashfordradio.com. The archive of this and other Ashford Radio shows are available there, and they're also available on iTunes. Look for them as well on our exclusive membership site, ashfordsocialmedia.com. This is Marcus Edwards thanking everyone for joining me today and wishing you all the best.
Blog Talk Radio, where millions of hosts and listeners gather.